All right. Welcome to another week of Politically Correcting Podcast with Jose Pio Lavelle, Lewis, and Dan from the streets here. I appreciate you guys being on here. I appreciate you out there. Dang, that stopped real quick. That was abrupt. I appreciate you being out there and spending your time with us every week live Wednesday evenings. I appreciate that so much. You have no idea. Again, this is a podcast where we talk amongst friends concerning some things that you talk about anyways. And it's usually over some drinks. So let's go ahead and open your drinks, pour your drinks, whatever it may be. Cheers to civilization as we know it.
Ooh. See, when you start off like that, get worried.
Be worried because I'm about to do my first actual monologue in a while here. All right, because I'm feeling frisky today.
Oh shoot!
This one might get both that side going over there. We haven't introduced our guest yet. He's not on camera yet either. Yep, and I think this would be something that you both could enjoy. Poverty. This is my quote of the day here. Poverty is not a scapegoat for immorality. Poor people don't kill people. Hungry people don't kill people. Uneducated people don't kill people. People who make consistently bad decisions kill people. Immoral decisions. It's hardly ever just a one-off thing, but a history of consistently making poor decisions. It gets you to a point where you then make the worst decision to take the life of another person because you cannot handle your decisions. And that speaks to personal accountability, speaks to personal responsibility. This is my views. This is not the views of everyone else, unless they agree. It's up to them if they want to agree. I'm going to go ahead and get your input on that, though, Lavelle and Dan.
Tell me, Lavelle.
We'll get our guests in a few minutes here.
I mean, it just like you said, man, it really starts with the individual. I mean, to get to that point where you have to make that decision to alter the history of everything that's behind that person's life.
Ooh, that is a fantastic way of putting it.
Right? Like from who knows, it's maybe the mom has passed away, right? Mm-hmm. And it's the only father that's taking care of this kid. Or what if both parents are taken away, but the grandmother is in line? So just imagine the hierarchy of pain that you got to get through first before you get to the siblings, before you get to the homeboys on the street or the homegirls on the street, or, everybody else that's outside that love that kid, teachers,
pastors,
pastors, I remember that kid when they were just here. They're only 15.
Mm-hmm.
To get to that point, you have a decision to make. You do. You have a decision to make. And in whatever decision that is, I don't think it is up there enough to where you should take that person's life. It doesn't rank past that point.
Right.
I don't care whatever the situation is. You have a decision to make. And there's no coming back from it.
What do you think, Dan?
You think you talking about something specific? Talking about what just happened in Rochester?
Not really. It's just a conversation that consistently is had on, let's say, city council meetings where we have a more left-leaning person who says, "Oh, it's because they're poor that they're killing people. It's because they're poor that they're stealing and ransacking businesses. It's because they're poor." And to me, I've been poor. I've never stolen or burnt down a building because I was poor. I've never killed somebody because I was poor. That's never pushed me to that level. So for someone to say, "Oh, they're hungry, they're poor," that's why they get to that level.
Well, so I think they can be those things and something could happen, but I don't think it justifies it. And I think what it sounds like is people are trying to justify the use of violence because of circumstance, right?
Yeah. And that's the frustrating part, because you have people who are in a position of power that can make, well, I don't even necessarily believe that they could make decisions that could actually You know what I'm saying? Solve that problem of that, again, that
Well,
individual.
there's no solving. There's no solving of problems.
right?
It's a give and take.
But at the end of the day, is stop acting as though you can. Stop using it as, you know, some way to connect and communicate and increase your value or stance just because you want their support. Right. Overall, everybody wants to be right. And even on the other side, even even, and I'm not even just, you know, calling out politicians, but also, you know, the citizens within the community. Like, we can't keep, you know, allowing ourselves to use the we don't have enough money, right? We can't use that as an excuse every single time. We have to look at every situation.
Or oppressed. They're oppressed somehow.
Stop. We can't do that because there's so much money that's being made off of poverty. Right. Okay.
We had a guest that was supposed to come on before that was making money.
Of course. We had a city council member that got popped for getting paid off of poverty. Okay. So
I wouldn't say getting paid off of it. He was stealing.
I'm sorry. Funneling taxpayer money into a ghost account. Like, to have the audacity to do that and then go up on city council every single week and preach to everybody about how they need to do better. That
got the fist going.
So again,
he's serious.
And I'm only using this platform now as a citizen because it's my, you know, it's my responsibility to call that out. This is
my mental health.
Right. This is my mental health. I really appreciate it.
For real.
And just using that as an example, we as citizens, we're seeing that, like, and you're still going up there crawling, you know, pointing the finger at just law enforcement, like pointing finger at.
Same thing with Lovely. Same thing with Lovely.
Well, listen, when your husband is dealing dope and you're the mayor, that's the most disappointing thing right there. Like the story behind like these bad decisions and these people that are in position. And I don't want to sound like, again, because every time I talk about,
don't qualify, just say it.
But every time I talk about it, I'm always getting looked at as the individual that is not with the people. You still have to hold that type of behavior accountable. Like you have to. You cannot let that ride as citizens and then say, oh, and point the finger at everything else is wrong instead of looking at the individual in the mirror.
Right. You came to the gun summit that I was on a panel of guests that were talking about gun violence in the city. And that was brought up by a Black Panther, an OG, old school guy, Black Panther, that said, we decided that Black men don't kill Black men. And I wouldn't say it ended it, but that was the end of the conversation. If you didn't fall in line with that, you were not part of that group. You did not belong in that community. Black men didn't kill Black men. And he said that very sternly. It was amazing to hear.
And what's sad, though, is that, again, the folks that are perpetuating the argument for the people in the community refuses to touch that point. 68 murders so far this year, with 3 good months left before we hit January.
Yep, with a high of 70 in the past like 30 years.
Are we talking about like temperature, like 70 in November? 70 plus murders. It's disgusting. And we're not talking about that. No, we're still talking about racial tensions, we still want to point. It's like, okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to just beat up every single racist individual you think just to feel better? Like, the rage, I understand where it's coming from. I get it. I understand how deeply rooted it is. But if you're not coming up to the plate with any solutions, then you are literally a part of the problem.
Well, let's get into a couple articles before we bring in our guest here, because it kind of leads into.
You be starting stuff, Jose.
That's what I do, man. That's what I do, because I get you hyped up. And now I'm about to bring on one of your good friends from CNN, Van Jones.
Oh God!
Let's bring his article up.
This dude, he's such a.
So Glenn Youngkin was the Republican who won the election in Virginia. It was, not going to lie, it was a great day for America to see, because that said we're not okay with CRT. We're not okay with seeing everything through a lens of, color biasness. We're not okay with telling parents that show up to their school board meetings and saying the FBI are not going to investigate you as a domestic terrorist. We're not okay with, maybe we're not okay with these mandates that are happening from the higher ups. But this man right here, Mr. Van Jones, calls Glenn Youngkin, this person that beat the odds to win. We're talking about, they threw every big name Democrat down there. And he said Glenn Youngkin is a Delta variant of Trumpism. How many times?
Thank you.
You see all the fear in that?
Right.
He used so much fear in one. Like,
right.
This is what I find funny about this whole liberal far leftism, right? I find it fascinating that the foundation of this entire argument that they've used for the last 2 years, 6 years, because with Trump, right? It's been Trump to the virus, and it mutates every single time. But during this election, during this cycle, it just started to crumble to where the only thing he had to say, the only thing he could say was Delta variant of Trumpism.
Yeah, read that last line, though.
They just get the keywords.
Read that last line. It says contended that Youngkin represented a Delta variant of Trumpism that threatened the country.
Oh, yes.
How?
Wow.
That threatened the country.
So you can just say things with no consequence now?
Youngkin didn't back up Donald Trump at all. And he didn't run on Donald Trump is my boy, and I agree with him, and he's our rightful president. He didn't run on any of that. He actually ran on give parents back the ability to talk about what they want their kids to learn in school.
Isn't that
how dare he?
That is 100% brainwashing right there.
That's exactly.
That's just brainwashing right there.
Well,
you know what they're going to do.
Anybody that's an enemy, quote unquote, of the far left is Trump.
Yeah,
that's all they do. And it's such a shallow argument too.
It's bad.
God, I love seeing you heat it up though, Lavelle.
Yeah,
he's relocated several times.
You should have been at the summit. It was, it was definitely good to see a lot of people talk,
Come to find out that one guy that brought up the 3 points that he made it all about it's systemic racism and it's oppression, that guy. Come to find out that he throws parties in random places throughout the city where he brings all his friends together and they all smoke weed at these parties, these underground, late night parties, after hours parties, smoke all the weed. And then at the last one that happened in Charlotte, I guess he got angry and started grabbing bottles from behind the bar and stealing bottles. Oh, it was a whole big old thing. Well, come to find out, this man who's oppressed. Oppressed.
Well, where else are you gonna be able to do that? What other country are you gonna be able to pop bottles,
right?
And get paid,
and throw underground parties.
Smoke. I mean, smoke your weed at the parties. Do what you got to do. As long as you're not breaking the law. But you can't really sit up there and point the finger at how bad the popo is when you're doing stuff the popo wouldn't really
that you get arrested for.
Appreciate.
Let's bring up the Kamala Harris article, which goes right in line with this as well.
They found her.
No.
Oh,
she's in the basement.
Still in the basement.
This is what Vice President Harris warned that McAuliffe loss in Virginia would doom Democrats in 2022 and 2024. That loss, she says, would doom Democrats, not President Biden pooping his pants, not Vice President Kamala Harris.
You know what's going to doom Democrats?
What?
Gas at $4.
They could do. The Democrats are so, like, the top Democrats that's running this country. They're so damn stupid. And here's why. They have the ability to connect with the youth more than any party in the country.
Not anymore.
Well, they still can, because they use so much influence from Jay-Z and all these
who under 30 listens to Jay-Z?
Exactly, but I'm talking about everybody from 18 and up. So you got more 18-year-olds than 30-year-olds, because half of them probably half of them didn't make it to 25 to 30. But anyway, they have that demographic. All they really need to do is get back to their own roots. Like, you don't have to use racism to separate anybody. You can really stand up and say, we're going to go after the bad politicians. That's what they're known for.
That's what they're supposed to be for.
That's what they're supposed to be for,
That's
right?
literally the whole.
But they became the bad ones.
Right.
They saw how much money they were making. They was like, hold on, man. Wait a minute. Hold on.
You know how much
Hold on.
Pelosi has made? She's almost a billionaire.
Hold on.
Pelosi's almost
Hold
a
on.
billionaire.
What do you mean you get to save your money from taxes if you make a lot of money?
Right. Right.
$400,000. That's the cap.
What do you mean
Right.
I can write off? I can get as much ice cream as I want?
So we have actually a couple more articles, but we're gonna jump right into our guest.
Yes,
here, Michael
'cause I
Hennessy,
cannot
think
wait
I think you've got some things to say about some of the things that we've talked about here. So let's bring Mr. Michael Hennessy up. Thank you so much for coming on, brother. I appreciate you
Welcome.
and everything you're doing in the community.
Yes.
For our city. You are a great asset that's kind of like underground, in my opinion, that most people, and that's the best way to do it, in my opinion, where people don't know, but it's happening, right? It's happening. And I just want to say I personally appreciate that very much. But let's talk about your background. What pushes you to be the man that you are today and doing everything that you're doing?
Well, I was explaining to the guys when I first got here, I was a beer salesman for 15 years. And I had a guy once tell me after I got more religious in the late 90s, and I became on fire for God, let's say. Holy Spirit got a hold of me and made me, I didn't get saved till I was 30. I was a late bloomer. But in 97, I got serious about God, and I asked him to use my gifts and talents to advance the kingdom. I don't know how you use an old beer salesman, but that's your problem, right?
Hey.
And I met a guy who was from the radio industry, and he went away for a dozen years, and he came back. When he left, I was the beer guy. I was the marketing director for the second largest beer distributor in the state. It's Wright Wisner was Wright Distributing, Wright Wisner when I was there. And he left the Rochester market to go run stations in Buffalo, came back 12 years later. I'm at the Open Door Mission. And he said, well, you've come full circle.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, thanks, Kevin. You know, you start right with the fat jokes. He said, no. He said, no, you're rounder, but that's not what I meant. He said, when I left, you were the beer guy.
Uh-huh.
And when I come back, you're getting the guys off the beer guy. I'm at the Open Door Mission now. He goes, you're an enigma. You should write a book. So I got this book cooking, as the mug turns, from such to saint. So it's kind of like a paradigm, but that drive to advance the kingdom put me into Open Door Mission for 8 years, and I worked with poverty and guys and homeless, and 8 years later here at Youth for Christ, and it's just taking the things of the kingdom and putting them into practice in the world. I have a radio show. It's called Good News Talk, Faith in the Marketplace. It's about connecting faith to the marketplace. So the world tries to solve problems with two of the three components that run everything in life. It's mind, body, and spirit. We hear that all the time. I take the Hennessy uninspired version and inject faith for spirit. So it's everything on the earth is when God spoke the world into existence, it was with mind, body, and faith or spirit component in it.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just a manifestation of the birds and the bees and the boys and the girls. It was its operating system, right? So if you try to solve poverty without adding faith, you're not going to solve it. If you try to solve addiction without adding faith, if you can try to solve the world tries to solve all the cultural chronic problems without one of the three needed components. And that's the whole status reason for the show is you want to talk about addiction. Okay, let's talk about addiction. Bring in an expert on addiction. Say, okay, how do we inject faith into this? Because that's the only way you're going to solve it. And how I learned that most definitively is at Open Door Mission. That we had a 12-month drug and alcohol addiction recovery program. Right, every year we'd get 10 new guys come in that were flat out drug addicted. Right, flat out drug addicted on alcohol, drugs, opes, you name it. And there was always, after 3 months in, you'd get 8 guys, and this was like clockwork. 8 guys would say, wow, I was in 20 of these programs until I got here, and this works. Well, that was easy for me to understand. We injected faith into your recovery program, right? But there would always be 2 guys at the other end who said, well, Mike, I had faith, I had a pastor, I had an addiction, and I went to my pastor, and he said, well, just read your Bible more. I said, no. No, you got it. You're not recognizing the mind and body. You're not recognizing the biological and physical and clinical effects of alcohol or drugs on your brain and how it changes the brain. And how God showed me that most definitively there was a guy named Kenny Geyer. And Kenny knows I tell this story, so it's cool. Kenny was the most hopelessly chronically addicted guy I ever met in 10 years there. Lived in the subway for years and years and years, right? Came to the mission, got saved, got clean, and we hired him as mission shelter staff. He was on the front desk for 10 years. And sweetest, most wonderful guy you ever want to know, unless his meds were off.
Mm.
And if his meds were off, he was the meanest, rottenest son of a gun you never want to meet ever. And that's when God showed me, no, there's clinical and biological factors that the pastor didn't appreciate to solve
Science.
the problem.
There's science.
God invented science.
Right.
So that's what I try to do, and everything I do, and try to inject faith in the chronic cultural problems. And because until you do, you're not going to solve them.
So in your belief, then, can you actually solve those problems? Because in my belief, it seems as if there's always going to be something, or they're always going to raise the bar. With this new $15 minimum pay per hour.
Yeah.
They're raising the bar, but then it's going to, in my opinion, it's going to turn around and we're going to be hiring less people of color that are teenagers at that point. Now we're not allowing teenagers to now get into the workplace at a younger age. And so they're not be able to bring home some of the bacon, per se. So do you believe that it can be fixed, or do you think it could be more,
Well,
where do you believe that it actually
Before
falls?
I answer that, I'm going to go back to where you started. You started when you're sitting on city council, you're doing all these murders, and as well, it's because of poverty. Well, I worked with thousands of guys in poverty every year for 8 years, and I don't know of one of them that committed murder.
Okay, so you agree. So you agree with the monologue at the beginning.
Poverty doesn't cause murder.
Right.
Right.
Okay, good.
Or any of that stuff.
I'm glad you agree. I didn't mean to put that all on you, and then you're sitting there. I'm like, I don't know if he agrees.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Again, so it's very troubling to hear, right? Where you can break down. You just broke down the whole essence of just kind of like being a human being. Like again, it goes back to, there is a choice, but there are certain circumstances where you don't have any control over it, like mental health situations, right? But when you're talking about poverty and you have people on the outside who you probably can count on your hand how many, politicians that have actively gone down to the open door mission to actually really figure things out and help out and extend a helping hand.
A couple.
Right.
Yeah.
So within that, like, you have all these issues that's getting perpetuated and keep using poverty as the scapegoat.
Right.
Mhm.
It's like they keep using guns as the scapegoat for murder.
Right.
Mm.
Well, who's the person that's committing the murder? Because it's not the gun.
I don't even want to say how many guns are owned in this group right here,
Right.
but none of them, I don't think, have killed. Walked down the street, pulled its own trigger to kill somebody.
Right. If
I don't want to speak for you guys. I have no idea.
If the gun theory were true, if the leftist gun theory were true, it would take us 18 months to get a driver's license, and we'd have our driver's license. We can only drive it on just certain times.
Unless you're an illegal
Yeah.
immigrant.
And according to the
Very
left,
restricted.
Lavelle wouldn't be able to get one.
Right.
Yeah, because he doesn't have
Because
internet
that car is-
data.
I don't have an
money.
ID.
That car's gonna kill somebody if we don't control it. That car's gonna go kill somebody if we don't control that car.
Yeah. I was watching a Chris Rock stand up, and it's ironic we're talking about gun control. And he's speaking to an audience, he's giving a show, he's telling the story. He says, he was talking about the mass murder. So they used the mass murder situation as like this big, huge, valid point that if we didn't have, or you didn't have access to this gun, 100 people wouldn't die, versus a guy with a knife stabbing. He wouldn't be able to get away with stabbing 100 people. But it's still like, you still can't use that, because you have to go back to the individual. You have to go back to mental health. You have to go back to why is that person there?
See, I like to go back to the root of things. And you talked about murder and what's the root of murder. Well, I like to go right back to the Bible. The first murder was Cain and Abel.
Damn.
Right.
Preach.
God said, bring me an offering. And Cain brought an offering of vegetables, which is never be a vegetarian. No. He brought vegetables. It was a work of his hands, right? But see, Abel was watching what happened with his father, Adam. And he watched when God took care of their sin, he used animal skins. He took away the fig leaves and used animal skins. So Abel was paying attention, and Cain wasn't. He brought a sacrifice of skins of animal blood, and Cain brought the vegetables. And God rejected his gift, and he accepted Abel's. And Cain got angry, right?
Jealousy.
Right now,
Yeah,
now, right there, God had that conversation with him. Don't watch the sin's crouching at your door right now, but you have a decision to make.
Right.
Don't choose what I think you're choosing, because he thought killing his brother would make him feel better. But God came back and said, the blood of your brother is crying out to you from the ground or streets, say today, right? And he said, am I my brother's keeper? And the rhetorical answer was, yes. You are. And that was wrong. So he chose the wrong thing to murder his brother. And whoever is deciding to kill their brother on the street is taking that pain, taking that rejection. And I'll bring this fatherhood in here too, because whenever there's a fatherless home, there's a sense of abandonment, which becomes depression, which becomes anger, which outwardly is violence, right? It's that abandonment of not having your dad in your life to give you the discipline and self-control you need not to kill somebody or do basic things. But you have a choice to make here. Don't choose life or death. The Bible says choose life.
Love it.
That is so direct to the problem within our community, our inner cities, right? The separation, and the only way you're going to get that knowledge if you go to church, right? That's the only way. So what you're saying is we got to go back to church, huh?
It's true. And I say this about a fatherless boy. If mom doesn't bring home a healthy male role model for him to start learning some common sense and some wisdom from, then when he turns 13 or 14, he's going to go find a role model. And he's going to go look out the window and say, where are the men?
Streets.
What do they see? What do they look like? What are they doing? What are they driving?
And I'm going to go be like them because I'm craving that recognition from a male. And I'm going to, if mom doesn't bring one into my life, I'm going to go pick one. And the one I pick isn't going to be good most of the time.
No, because kids are generally fairly dumb.
Right.
Well, they're
ignorant.
I was too.
I would say ignorant because they know what they're doing. I mean,
Right.
My kids will be running laps around me sometimes. I'm thinking I'm the smartest person in the room. And before you know it, joke's on me. But you should have been at the Stop the Violence forum.
I was hoping that Moses Robinson was there, and I asked, I'm honored to have Moses on my board, and I wanted to get there. I couldn't get there. But James Smith is great too. He's the new interim chief. He was the captain of the downtown section the whole time I was at the mission, and was out without Dave Smith in the downtown section, of those guys getting to us really quick. I mean, we had a hotline really quick because, guess what? Guys in poverty in desperate situations, they don't act responsibly all the time, right? And at the mission, we can't keep 24-hour security, armed security, and we can't afford it. So if it wasn't for Captain James Smith in RP downtown section getting there within 3 minutes every time we needed him, that place might not even be here.
Can I go on a limb and say, should we just have a lot of that funding, those millions of dollars to get more open door missions around the city?
No, because we don't want government funding. So because as soon as you bring in government money,
then they will mess it. They will
mess it up.
There's string, because we do a chapel service in there every night.
Well, name one thing that the government has actually done that's actually positive.
So why are we saying we need more money? And that's the argument for solving the poverty issue. We need more money. Y'all not giving us no money. Where's the money? Y'all, that's all. That was the whole argument, like at the forum. Like, where's the government money for?
I would tell you this: if that agency is seriously faith-based, they're not looking for money from the government, because government from the money always comes with strings, and they ask you to start compromising what you're faith about.
Oh, so bang! So there's the poverty little chink. That's a little chink in that little armor right there.
Can you say chink anymore?
Oh shoot! I forgot the feds are watching.
We don't
too.
have one of those.
Watching. We definitely
Feds are watching.
If you're Asian out there and want to come on the show, let me know, because we
right
need to cover that Asian spectrum
Right.
there. The Asian persuasion.
I really thought
if you're
that
truly faith-based, you want private money.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
Well,
you don't want the strings attached. And at your organization, you said it, that you didn't want any kind of government attachment.
No, because even if there's nothing written in the letter of,
it doesn't matter if it's written.
it's implied,
right.
And even
Was it.
and
You're on
then
the water.
I say that's implied in there that we're going to control this once we start funding the money in it. And then even if the administration you're getting the money from is friendly to you,
Mhm.
and that can happen, there's always, go back to the Bible, then there's next is the Pharaoh who knows not Joseph, right? And he walks around, boy, I understand a lot of money went in this building. Do we really have to have that chapel service every night? This is-
Right.
Because I'm not comfortable with that.
Yep.
So why did these
And now you've become dependent on that funding stream because you
Mhm.
didn't go out and raise it.
Yep.
Because that takes work and that
That takes
takes
work.
relationship and that
Right.
takes time. So you didn't go raise it. Now you're dependent on it. Now your faith goes out the door.
Well,
I could name 100 organizations that's happened to right now. But I
That's-
won't.
I mean, we could do 99.
and politicians. And politicians. You brought up
I love it.
the fatherhood concept there, and that's hard for a lot of women out there, single moms, to in this day and age to stomach, to swallow, because it's what do you mean? I don't need no man.
Right.
I could do this on my own. How do you respond to that type of response?
So there's 75% single parent homes in the city, and it's
Mhm.
not like just here, it's almost every city. And well, let me go back. And why is that?
Major city.
Every major city. Let's go back. Why is that? It's because it was incentivized for 50
Right.
years, right? The New Deal, Johnson came in. Two things happened in the New Deal in the middle of the civil rights movement, which was good, and Martin Luther King, which was good.
Mhm.
They started the New Deal. They said, okay, we're going to start funding out of wedlock births for the very first time, which sounds compassionate, right? For single moms out there, I'm going to get some funding for my out of wedlock child. But there was one condition. Remember what it was?
You can't have a father.
No
Or there
dad
can't
in
be
the
a
house.
man in the house. Yeah.
No dad in the house,
Right.
right? So I was in sales for 30 years. If you want more of something, what do?
You incentivize it.
You incentivize it. So
You're
after 75 years of incentivizing fatherlessness, we have
Mhm.
75% fatherlessness. So
Oh.
until you realize it was intentional, it doesn't make any sense.
And what was the rate of marriage back before that?
So and in the African American community,
Yes.
which the separation of fathers and families started in slavery because the men
Mhm.
were all put in the house down by the fields and the women were all put in the different plantations. They were split up then. But after the Civil War and slavery was ended, the faith of the African American community brought the marriage rate back to
Mhm.
where it was higher. It was like 55-60%. It was higher than the population of the country as a whole.
Right.
Wait, can
And-
we
and-
wait?
and
I
19
want to
yeah.
stop real quick. I would like a timeline so that we can kind of, trace through history because, slavery ended what, 64, 63?
Yeah.
1863. So
Yeah.
then let's give that about 20 years, around 1880 ish. You're saying this is going on?
No, I'm saying
What if-
between 1860 when slavery ended in 1950s
Ooh.
up into the 50s, the marriage
That's a
rate.
long time.
Yeah.
Almost 100 years.
It is a long time.
You know how much repairing you can do from slavery from that
They
time?
did
to
a
that
lot.
time?
They did a lot of repairing, and they were strong families, and they were strong male and mom and dad households, and the kids were strong, and the kids were getting once segregation ended, kids were actually getting good education, and
Mhm.
things were
Mhm.
happening good. But then 65 came, and he basically undid all that.
Now that was the civil rights movement, right? That was
Right.
the "We Shall Overcome" days. The
Right. Late 50s, early 60s, right?
Mhm.
Well, there was other things going on too, like voting rights was a big thing as
Sure.
well.
Well, yeah, but again, who was leading the charge of that? A lot of the reasons they were doing that is because, first of all, let's go back. Blacks were Republicans for a good portion of that time.
Well, there was Republicans who freed him.
So there had to be a separation between
Frederick Douglass was.
Yes, he was.
Was there a switch? Was there a switch of what Republicans were back then to when they converted to Democrats? Because that's all I hear is there was a switch.
No, Republicans were always anti-slavery. They were the original abolitionists and still are. It was the Dixiecrats, the Democrats of the South, who were manifestly perpetuating and ready to fight against the North to keep slavery. They were Democrats, right? They're still Democrats, right? They just changed their language. They changed their language, and now what
And
they
their
say,
clothing.
and now what they say is, let's make them dependent
Right.
on us,
Right.
just like we did during slavery.
Let's find a new
And
way
so
to
they
enslave the mind.
so when they started the 65, they saw the African American families were too healthy.
Empowering.
They're too healthy, and so we have to. So let's incentivize let's pay and subsidize out of wedlock births for the first time
Well,
again, which
hold-
sounds compassionate.
Do you
but
think that was maniacal? Do you think that was done to break up the black family, or was it done
Well,
in
then
the
let's-
right intentions and
why-
it was the bad forces behind them that kind
if
of
it was a good intention, why would you put the asterisk on it that the father can't be in the home?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Why would you do that? Because here, the answer to that is really simple. It could solve it anytime they want. Just say 9 months from now, we're not going to fund the next out of wedlock birth unless the father's back in the home. That would be the right thing to do. If you're trying to
Yep.
get the nuclear family back together, it would be easy to do. But they haven't done it in 75 years because what they've done is what they wanted to do was create a dependent society.
Or do you think it's still the
Hmm.
problem now?
Pardon?
Do you think that's still the problem now with dependency in
Nothing's changed. It continues to perpetuate the fatherless home.
And then
And
you
it
throw
gets, it's
in
going to be
child support.
80% and 90% fatherless homes as we continue. It's just going to get 100%. And get back to your original question. Yes, that's what society wants. They want fathers out of the house because, after all, Jose, masculinity is toxic. We don't need no stinking
Right.
dads, right? We don't
Right.
need no fathers. In fact, we're better
Preach.
off without fathers. Fathers are the problem, right? And now the fathers are so wounded because their government and society says you're no good. We don't want you. Now they're doing what they're doing, on the streets and
Mhm.
not raising their children.
Conversation's over.
That's it. Yeah, you know. Well, you bring up the fatherhood thing
Uh-huh.
quite a bit. You have a organization called the Fatherhood Initiative, correct?
That's correct.
Can you talk to us about that?
So that was created to have an impact on 75% fatherless homes by raising up an army of healthy male role models, because we believe that there's no substitute for a father figure to be in a young man's life.
No
believe-
substitute.
No substitute
Mm.
other than Jesus Christ coming into their life, right? Who's the ultimate father,
Right.
isn't he? So no, has to be a father in the home. And so we're raising this army of healthy male role models because we believe, and they can turn the channel if they want, but and you talk about moms and grandmas do superhuman work with what they have. But I believe that, and we believe that there's 3 things that a young man can only learn from another man, and that's discipline, self-control, and the confidence to understand that he can overcome any obstacle in his life. Has to come from a man. Now, moms can work on it and try, but it needs to come from another man. And here's why. I've done a lot of experimenting, and I had asked this one man, a young man, 14 years old, and he was in a good family, but he was also in a program with kids he met hundreds of kids that had no dads. And I'd say, what's the difference between what you see in your life and them? He says, well, they don't respect any other adult than their mother. So the person that raised them is the only person on earth who they respect.
Mhm.
They don't respect any other men, women, cops, judges, teachers, anybody. Right. And I said, so who's responsible for discipline in your home? And he said, Dad. I mean, he didn't have to think about it. It's Dad. Right. And I said, so why do you think that is? And then he thought about it. He said, well, Mr. Hennessy, when I come home from school with a bad report card and I bring it home and give it to Mom, and she starts talking about discipline, I kind of smile because I know that, it's Mom and it's going to end in love. Right. And then I said, and then what's she say? What's Mom say?
No.
Wait till your dad gets home.
Until your father gets home.
Right.
He goes, that's when it gets real, Mr. Hennessy.
Mhm.
And so why do you think that is? It's because, and he thought about it again, and he said, well, when Dad gets home, I know that the discipline isn't going to take a backseat to the love. And now I go back to the explanation of that, back to the Bible. Why is that? Because in the Bible says in Proverbs that a father who doesn't discipline his son hates his son. So flip that and say, a father shows his son love by disciplining him.
One of my favorite verses.
That's what. So men and women are hardwired differently.
Mhm.
Women, with all their heroic work, can't do that for a young man that a man has to do. God made it hardwired that way because a father's love is never going to take a back seat to discipline, because that's exactly how he shows him love.
So I'm guessing.
So we want to raise up an army of healthy male role models to step in and be a dad to a kid who needs a dad figure in his life.
So how many dad figures are there in the organization for the
So-
Fatherhood Initiative?
So our leadership team is about 12 guys. We've had 72 men come to 2 different conferences.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, because I think that's amazing, because
Yeah.
we're not asking them to walk 2 miles and have a hot dog. We're asking them to make a lifelong commitment to a troubled city kid, and still 70 men come. Now we've had 8 men come out of that, and 3 men out of the second one to go to the next steps, take some courses, take some classes, and are actually getting engaged with us, hanging out with our boys on basketball, Friday night late basketball, and starting to develop relationships with a kid, because it has to be organic.
Right.
You can't say, hey,
Right.
you're the mentor, you're the mentee, you guys get together and do mentee stuff. No, it doesn't work that way. It won't work. It has to be a relationship has to develop organically. So it can take time for that to happen. But you just get in proximity with kids, start encouraging them, because these kids are literally dying on the street for the recognition that they never got from a healthy man. All you got to do is go up to one of those kids at my basketball game and say, you know what, you're a good rebounder. You've been working on that. That's a good job, young man. Good job. He's literally dying on the street for that because he never got it from his father.
Encouragement goes a long way.
Well, that's why we're seeing
It's everything.
a lot of men on like YouTube who are straightforward, honest, very, very tough, that a lot of their followers are younger kids. I say kids because they're younger than me.
They
but
crave it.
They do crave it. They're looking for that, especially in a
Tough
society of
love is biblical.
well, yeah, but especially in a society of soft men. It feels as if there is and people have asked me before, because I tell them to call me council man. I said, don't call me council person. Don't call me council member, council man, because that is what I prefer.
Right.
And I've been asked a couple of times, why do you choose that? Why is it that you chose that? I'm like, because there's a battle against men out
Correct.
here, and these young boys need to see that it's okay to be a man. It's
Right.
okay to be a strong man, a strong-willed man,
Right.
and to have the manhood inside of you come out in a way that's productive for society, not in a way that keeps women down.
Not only is it okay, it's has to be that way.
It's biblical.
The reason we're having the violence on the streets is we got 3 generations. It took 3 generations of fatherless homes to have 16-year-olds committing murder in our streets, because they're literally dying on the streets for recognition from a man to encourage them and tell them you can, and teach them discipline and teach them self-control and teach them that you can overcome any obstacle that's put in your way, because you're strong, I'm strong, I can show you how, mom can't.
Would you say a big, huge factor in being able to crack a lot of these kids would be that potential negative male role model on the other side that's influencing with the money, with the drugs, with the recognition in a negative way? How do you crack that?
Sure, which is why I think you got to get the healthy male role model into that kid's life before he gets the idea that, well, I can make $100,000 a month out there with the guys on the corner, and it's going to cost me $100,000 to go to school. I mean, those are hard life realities,
right,
to undo. You know, Frederick Douglass said it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. So let's make them strong and get them biblical principles before he makes that decision to go to the guys on the corner. That's the point of the Fatherhood Initiative, is get a healthy male role model into that kid's life before he makes the decision that we know he's going to make if he gets to 13 without it.
So we got to start at like 5, 6 years old.
Well, earlier,
Hey, the left starts early, don't they?
Yeah, they
Oh my
do.
God.
They do.
you gotta
They
start younger,
do.
because I've seen that. Don't kick my light, man. You trying to dim my shine here?
My bad. Actually, it made you brighter.
The big thing about these young boys is that they have to learn how to handle their aggression with other boys. Like, they have to learn when to be aggressive, when to be passive. They have to learn that by being amongst other kids, but also they have to learn how to act when around other people. And that's taught before you're even 5 years old. Like,
Self-control.
right. And if you're not taught that by 5 years old, you got these little kids on TikTok, Instagram,
Right.
acting a damn fool. Like, I'm the man. Like, who's teaching this kid this?
Let me tell you a quick story from Mike Peace. Mike Peace is on our leadership team.
Mhm.
Peace has been a father to 30 fatherless kids for 30 years. He got a call. He has all these kids that come up through his program. A lot of them are fatherless kids. And he got a call from this young man on a phone, and he said, I was told that you have to come down and talk to us, by a girl that went through your program. And she said, before we do what we're about to do, you have to come down and talk to us. And Mike's going, I don't know what this is, but he went. And he got there, and there's 3 men sitting on a stoop, all packing. And they said, we're about to go and do a retribution. We're going to take this guy out unless you got something to say to us that'll stop us, because she says you do. And Mike's like,
Wow.
I have no idea what I'm going to say to these men.
Right.
But, okay, God, give me something here.
Right.
And he said to him, do you have any kids? And the guy looked at him and said, yeah, I got 3. Why? He says, and Mike said, how is what you're about to do? He said, oh, no, take it back. He said, what do you want for him? And he said, I want him to have a good life. I want him to have a good education. I want him to have a good wife. I want him to have a good life. Mike said, how is what you're about to do going to help him get that? And the guy broke into tears, and one by one, they walked away, and they didn't do what they were going to do. You know what Mike said? He said, all I did was speak some sense into him. I talked some sense into him. And that's what a father does, and only a father can do. Imagine being a kid that grows up without somebody coming in your life and talking some sense into you once in a while when you needed it.
The fear of God.
Without somebody talking some sense into you, you're just going to be go and do the wrong thing every single time. And that's what a fatherless kid ends up. And they're never unredeemable. You can always get them back. We brought in grandfathers and legacy into it because, a lot of kids, if they didn't have a father, they may not have if you don't have a father in your life, you didn't lose the wisdom of one generation, you lost a generation of 3 or 4 generations.
Mm-mm-mm.
You got to bring fathers back.
That is music to my ears.
What about you, Dan? He just had a child recently.
Another one. Yeah. I
Yeah.
got 2 now.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
2 girls.
Yeah.
So,
So what do you say to a father of 2 girls then? Since it's not
Well,
about boys, we've talked all about boys
All I
with their
say
fathers.
is that we're starting with boys because you have to start somewhere.
Right.
But I would say this: a young girl needs a father in her life just as much as a young boy, because how's she going to learn how to pick a husband?
Right. That's what I was always told, that I should be the example. I should set the bar so high that my daughters never want to get married in that sense. They should, but they shouldn't find one.
Right. Unless they can marry you, and they can't.
Right. No, that's illegal.
Right. But that you're modeling to them what to look for in a husband. Right.
And that's kind of what drives a lot of what I do. And that sounds cliche to say, but no, like that's in the back of my mind constantly.
Because if a young girl doesn't have that, she's going to pick a husband like her mom did. And it might be the different guy every year or every weekend or every month. And that's how you pick a man.
So what are your thoughts on public safety now? How can we handle public safety from a faith-based viewpoint? What can we do to help so that it's not about arresting that young man, but about maybe taking them out of the environment that they're in and getting them the help that they need? What's your view on how to handle the future of reimagining public safety?
I think that the guy that's got it working right is guys like Moses and guys like Justin Collins, right?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing.
I know them both personally, so I have a biased opinion here, but you're spot on.
But here's the thing. These men, like we talked about from the Cain and Abel experience there, it's the spirit of Cain that's creating the violence. It's the abandonment they're feeling from the abandonment from our dad that was not in their life that's making their abandonment turn into depression, then anger, then violence. So we have to address these guys. They're coming from a place of wound. They're wounded.
Trauma.
We call them rebels, we call them gangsters, we call them hoodlums, but nobody's ever called them wounded. So we have to address them as wounded young men, because when they were wounded, they were innocent young boys, right? It was that a sense of abandonment that caused the wound. And now we have to address that wound. But you can't address a wound if you're just giving them a release ticket and putting them back out on the street. They need to have consequences for their actions before you can heal the wound, right? They have to be able to come to the end of themselves. The prodigal son goes and he lives a wild, reckless life, right? And he comes to the end of the story in the pig's pot, eating pig's pet, and he comes to the end of himself. I can't come to your end for you. You have to come to the end of. So we have to give these kids a consequence so that they come to the end of themselves to turn back to the Father. And they turn back to the Father, and the Father's just there running towards him, saying,
Open arms.
I'm ready here to treat all your wounds. They're wounded. We have to see them that way. But what we're doing is by catch and release and catch and release and we're enabling them to continue in their destructive behavior. So we're never going to get them to the end of themselves because there's never any bad consequences for their behavior. It's not hard.
It's really not. It comes down to a very basic understanding of
Basic.
But they made it complicated though.
Yeah.
right.
Because there's so many different social distractions that literally pulls everybody away from eating at the dinner table with pops there and asking, yo, how was your day?
Well, that's what they say. They make masculinity toxic. They say, no, we don't need dad. That's the problem. We need less dads in their lives. No. Reverse that. You need the dads back in. How do we get dads back into their lives? That's the answer. But society has determined that men are not necessary.
We making a comeback though, y'all. We making a comeback.
Well, we have to.
Well, it's not
because-
true.
Yeah,
It's not true. God doesn't
Right.
think that. God says, Jesus says, I don't do anything that I don't see my Father do. Right. And he also says in those days, Malachi 4:6, in those days, he's going to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children and the hearts of the children to the fathers. I think we're in those days. We have this opportunity to turn hearts of fathers back to the children. One of the things you probably saw the video on Dads on Duty, right?
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
I was
Right.
gonna bring
So
that up.
I had 10 people send me that, which is good. It means
Yeah.
I'm getting my message out, right?
I had the same amount of people who I'm like, well, we need the men to actually be consistent with this.
That was part of the Fatherhood Initiative's initial mission statement. Is that once we get this army of male role models going, we're going to start finding teams and going into the high schools because nobody's going into the high schools and
Right.
be dads on duty.
Right.
And what we're doing on now is we're going to for our next conference, we're going to get the grandfathers involved because we think the grandfathers have more of a heart. They're more mature. They have more wisdom. They understand the problem better. And we're going to say, you're going to have a second chance to be a good dad, Grandpa, right? You may not have been that father to your son, but you have a second chance now. You can be that father to your grandson, right? And you can start being that dad for him and giving him that recognition and being with him and showing him, right? And you know what might just happen? That he might just, there's a verse in the Bible with Gentiles and Jews that says the Gentiles are going to provoke the Jews back to God. Well, the grandfather being a father of that boy may just provoke father to jealousy to get more involved with his kids. So that's some of the things because who has the time to go hang out at schools during the high school? The grandpas,
right.
the grandpas. And if you look at those
grandpas
guys,
nowadays are like 40 years old.
well, if
so
you look
Yeah,
exactly, you look at that video, those guys are all 40,
Yeah.
50,
I'm
right?
close.
they're young.
I'm
They're
close.
grandpas. They're grandpas.
right.
Good thing I'm on my kids, but I'm close to granddaddy.
Now, Michael, you've used the word army to describe the fatherhood initiative. Is it that severe?
Well, if do the math, I've never done the math, but 75% of fatherless homes in the city represents tens of thousands
Sure.
of kids. You're not going to do it with a couple dozen guys.
No, so you mean army. You
Sign
mean
me
like
up.
it's serious, it's militaristic in its seriousness.
Remember back at when former Mayor Johnson and Simone from RIT, they came up with that. We want to raise 10,000 mentors, right? And it was a great idea. It's the right number, but didn't have a faith element, so it fell flat. So yeah, we need 10,000 mentors. That's why it's about Youth for Christ. It's about Mike Peace and Bethel Express. It's about Cuevas Walker and Go Ministries. It's about I want to include all the different ministries. It's bigger than Youth for Christ. We got a
Right.
bigger problem than just anything I can solve. So I want all the places that work with kids, youth development organizations, faith-based, to say, come partner with us and let's do this together.
So, okay. So how do you do that then? There's got to be someone that leads that way. Are you
Right.
that person?
Well, I have Mike Peace, I have Cuevas Walker, I have Reggie Cox, I have all these men who are leaders in the African American community and religious organizations and pastors, because they need to lead it, right? I can provide the building and provide the wherewithal, and I can bring the suburban churches in to be the support for there, but they have to lead it. It's a city issue we're dealing with right now. It doesn't mean that there isn't fatherlessness out in the suburbs, but we'll go handle that differently when that time comes. But right now, these men have to lead it.
Yeah. This is kind of an immediate need as opposed to.
Yeah, well, it's 75%
Right.
fatherless. We don't have that in the suburbs. You know what we have in the suburbs? I did a study on it. I said, I wonder what the fatherless rate is in the suburbs. And I thought, well, it's got to at least be 60%. That's the divorce rate, right? And it's not. And you know why? Because it's figured differently for the suburbs. suburbs, because in the suburbs you have marriage and you have divorce
Mhm.
and you have legal custody.
Right.
So if a dad has legal custody of his kid and he spends 2 hours a weekend with them a month, it's considered it's not considered a single parent home. Now those kids,
Wow.
that guy's no more of a father to his kids than the guy who hasn't seen his kid in 5 years.
Right.
But it's counted differently. Why? Because the suburbanites have the education and they can figure this out, and so it doesn't look as bad. It's
A numbers game?
decoy.
Oh.
Yeah, it's decoy. Wow.
Well, if you haven't seen the building's pretty amazing. Talk about the location of it.
So we're at One Favor Street. The building was built originally as RIT's sports complex. So there's the Paul Ice Arena on one side that you see when you cross the Freddie Mac Bridge. We're the other half of that building. And in that building was the 2 gymnasiums. So we have a gymnasium. We have our basketball programs. We have late night basketball for boys. We also have a meeting space where we rent out the churches. We have meetings in that place. We have all kinds of arts and crafts and auditorium and doing in there. We have other programs. We have a parent life teen pregnancy program to support teen moms. They make the brave decision to keep their kids when the whole world's trying to tell them to abort it.
Right. The easiest thing.
So they make the decision to keep it. So they need support for the next 2 or 3 years to get independent. And then we created Proverbs 31 girls, middle school girls program. Let's teach these girls their purpose and destiny in Christ and prevent some of these pregnancies in the first place. And then we have we're going to start Mighty Men in November is a middle school boys program, so we can have a program for boys that aren't into basketball, because we never did have that. So we've created 4 new programs. We have a summer camp now. We started the Fatherhood Initiative. We're having our 3.0 Fatherhood Connection will be in March, probably mid-March. We'll invite another army of healthy male role models to come and learn about being a mentor to a kid. So we're just trying to keep going, keep doing what we're doing, keep being an answer to the community. And like I said, we moved, we started late night basketball as a response to the violence. There's been 3 shootings at 2 different rec centers in 2 months, right? The families and the kids, they don't feel safe at the rec centers on a Friday night. So we moved our basketball program from Saturday to Friday night so we can be a sanctuary, a safe place to kids have healthy activities on a weekend night. So
except for that area where the water is seeping in underneath your basketball court.
Yeah. Well, see,
that neighbor of yours.
Our neighbor won't fix his roof, and our neighbor's roof is leaking on our gym floor, causing so we've already spent.
It's bad. It's like a little tidal wave on the corner.
We've spent $20,000 fixing their side of the roof, emergency repairs to try to keep it. And now I find after the last rain, it's leaking in another place. So he won't fix his roof. We're trying to fix it for him, but that's going to be $150,000 job at some point to do it all.
So okay, so let's get into that then. What kind of help do you need for your mission? Because I think that once a lot of people hear this, watch this, they're going to want to be able to help, donate something. How can we help?
First thing we can do is listen. I called RG&E and they won't take Goodwill. So it's a 26,000 square foot building that you have to heat and cool all year. So that's a big number. It's a big nut. So we can use your cash donations. We have the basketball program. If you're interested in helping, at-risk boys stay out of trouble, then you can come and sponsor a team. $500 sponsors a team.
That's it.
$50 sponsors a youth. We
man.
have programs going on all year long. But what I really need, if you like sponsoring young girls, we have Proverbs 31 girls. We have the Parent Life Teen Pregnancy Support Program. We're going to have Mighty Men. But here's what I'm asking people to do. You can give to all these little things, and we're happy with that. You can come down and volunteer, and I'll get that in a minute. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get monthly giving coming into that place that takes care of the nut. So
you don't have to rely on government funding.
I won't take it. I'll help less kids before I'll take government money, because I won't compromise the biblically based principles that we stand on that the kids need. Again, if we can't give them mind, body, and faith, we won't fix any problems. So we have to have the faith element, and the government always makes you compromise that faith element. So we won't do it. We'll help less kids if we have to. But here's how I work to make it simple. If 500 people sent us $50 a month, we'd have all our new programming covered. We'd have our roof covered. We'd have everything covered. Now, a lot of people can do more and a lot of people can do less, but that's the number. 500 people, $50 a month, we're done. And we can continue to grow and support the new programs we've started and continue with new programs in the future.
I'm inspired. I am totally inspired.
Well, all the women out there that watch this program, because they're looking for strapping young men like us to speak up for manhood. And Michael, thank you so
Mike
much
came
for
through
talking
with
about
the mic. You don't even have to drop the mic.
Well, we got Jennifer with it, right? She's that's probably a great person to link up for the female portion of it, because
for ladies, come down and work with our middle school girls. We're teaching them their purpose and destiny in Christ. So they have huge self-esteem problems. So we don't teach them self-esteem problems because that's about clothes and what you're wearing and your kind of shoes. No, we teach them their value is in God, right? And once your value is in God, it doesn't matter what your circumstances are. You can overcome your circumstances and do well. We teach them manners. We teach them how to respect themselves and honor themselves. We end the thing. Here's something they can do. At the end of 6 months, we do a debutante ball. We take the manners and the etiquette and we put them all in gowns and we bring them to Brooklyn Country Club on December 5th from 4 to 7. And we treat them like princesses, and they bring their dads, or we have a healthy, godly male role model walk them in, tuxes, the whole shebang, show them that they have value.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what clothes you wear. It doesn't matter what your economic circumstance is. It doesn't matter. You have value in God, in Christ. And that's it. So we're looking for $100 gowns. The program costs $200 per girl because we do really nice things for them over a 12-month period. So you can sponsor a girl for $200. That's
$200. That's a prom right there.
It's nothing.
Less than a prom.
We take 200 and we stretch it for 6 months.
That's amazing.
Really cool.
That's amazing. Well, I speak for the rest of the guys here on this one and say that you'll definitely have some men that will be involved, some donation funding here. For
the men, just come down on a Friday night and either coach or be a ref or just be a fan and encourage these kids. And if you, again, like I said, telling a kid, coming up to a young man and saying, I've been watching you, you've been working hard at that, you've been doing, that's the kind of thing that can keep the kid from committing a suicide that day.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
I'm blank serious.
And we can probably get Austin out there to put out a thumb from the stands.
Oh man,
they need
there it is.
Fans. You can't be a coach or a ref. Just be a fan.
There you go. You are 100% an inspiration, and you also, you silence. And I hope I hope we can get more people to watch, and actually pay attention to what what you represent. It definitely starts with us within our own community. If you want to help what is a problem for the people that looks exactly like you, when you see someone that looks 100% opposite you, then all of those other issues that they keep pushing out there for you to eat and take, just throw it out the window, because no one can hold a candle to the work that you are doing right now. So I am 100% honored and I appreciate the work that you do, because I didn't know myself. Like, I had no idea.
One more thing. Some of the men that we got in from the first conference, they were old white guys, right? And those are the guys that have time, right?
Right.
And they have a problem with the culture divide. I'm an old white guy from Penfield. How do I mentor a young at-risk city kid? And show them a father's heart. Bring a father's heart. Do we believe Martin Luther King or don't we? That if we show them authentic love and we show them authentic care and we encourage them and we give them the recognition they're starving for, will they not judge us by the content of our character?
And you got an MLK poster in your office there.
He's the man.
It's pretty simple.
You're the man, Michael.
Yes, you are.
I'm just following orders.
But you know what, man? You are definitely.
Well, you're the answer. This is the truth here. So when someone says, we need to do this, here's the answer. What are you going to do about it? Yep. This is it right here. Like, if you are watching this podcast right here and you're thinking to yourself, man, there's got to be something we could do for our city. There's got to be something we could do for these young men, for these young ladies. There's got to be something.
I keep extending my stay, but let me say this. You talked about, you can work with an organization that has an impact on poverty or addiction or homelessness or domestic violence or suicide or education crisis, or you can work with an organization that works on fatherlessness and have an impact on all of them.
Get to the real
Get to the root
core.
of it. Get to the root of it.
You listen, you're gonna see this face again. I'm definitely
I'm down Friday nights, bro.
I'm coming down. I'm definitely coming down, and I'm gonna.
What time Friday night?
5 to 8.
And I
And
love basketball
whereabouts
too.
again?
First of all,
One Favor Street.
don't
Street.
listen.
One
I
Favor
am.
Street.
Ooh, I am.
West Main to Ford to Favor.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Right under 490.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you
guys.
talking. Let's go through the questions here.
Yeah.
What do we got here? Dan Rice, about time, man. I haven't seen you in a long
West
time,
Coast
Dan
in the
Rice.
building.
Jennifer, yeah, I brought it up earlier, which is fantastic. I saw her name up there. So this is fantastic. She says she's all in.
Chris
She's all in,
Luper.
so that's great to see. Kevin is upset to hear about the roof. Kevin, you know what to do. How does someone donate to the organization?
YFCRochester.org.
YF as in Frank,
Youth-
C, Youth for Christ.
Youth for Christ, Rochester.org. And
Nice.
there's all different
There.
ways you can give.
All different ways. So you can do it electronically, Cash App, Venmo, all that.
I don't know if we're that high tech.
Well,
We're
let's get
pretty
you
low
up there.
tech.
Let's get you up there.
Go through the website first or come down and write me a check.
All right.
Shaq.
Right. Well, hold on. Tell them to bring a checkbook and then show them the basketball
Right.
court
Right.
and then say now give.
Right.
Now give. Because once you guys see the basketball court, I'm telling you, I'm like, what the heck is that?
We gotta do all the Venmo stuff yet. We still haven't gotten there.
Well, if you're so
Neither
inclined to help out, that could be one thing.
But if
there.
you go on the website and you go on our harness and you can give monthly and you can do the debit deduction and all that stuff. It's just very simple. We're a grassroots organization. I'm the only full-time employee. I have 4 part-timers. Some of them working 20 hours a week. Some of them are working 4. We do what we do just so we got to get done what we got to get done.
Well, you're impacting the world one child at a time, and that's the way to do it. Everyone wants to do like this big grandiose thing when it's really just the nuts and bolts. It's just the block and tackle of football, right? If you just do the basic and it just grows, right? It grows organically.
The Bible says you leave the 99 for the 1. So we're okay with 1.
There you go. We usually have a question of the day. There might be a comment of the day because I think you just absolutely killed them.
Yeah. This was top 5.
Top 5 for you?
All day.
Good.
All day.
Well, because it's tangible, right?
100%.
This is what you can do.
This is food to digest and really nourish the mind.
God, we just had the elections.
I
had the thought today that you could dissolve 95% of government and nothing would change.
Nothing. Yeah. Well,
No offense, Jose. But this is something that would make a tangible difference.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've worked with
Something,
kids in the
yes.
city. It's not only is it rewarding for them, you get something out of it too.
Mhm.
Like
Oh,
let's
yeah.
not pretend like this is all about giving. There's a
Stay right there,
selfish
Austin.
aspect of it.
Yeah, but it's okay. It's a good.
Oh, it's a
selfishness.
good selfishness.
yes.
Yeah. Well, and he talked about the grandfathers making the fathers jealous. That's a good jealousy.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
It's a
Very
positive jealousy.
Yeah, it's a very
Yeah.
positive. Not
It's creating envy for them to do something.
Yeah.
It's a driving force. I mean,
Yeah,
men are driven by jealousy. A lot of
Competitive
times.
though. It's competitive.
Sure.
Oh, you're not gonna. You're
Yeah.
not about to take
not-
my son
Right,
to the
right,
movie.
right,
right. Not on my watch.
I'm
Right.
taking him to 5 movies.
I'm gonna let you know if I'm playing this Friday or any Friday, I'm blocking your son's shot, and I don't care.
I'm not
I don't care.
playing
I'm
nothing,
blocking
but
it.
I will coach.
Blocking it.
I will coach.
Like a
I'm
spider monkey.
I am
I'm going to be out the
exactly-
front door looking for you.
Listen, the energy that I have and just this gives me another, outlet of something that, I don't mind doing. When I used to work for the city, I didn't work for the money. Like working for the city as a security guard, you're not getting paid money to where you like, yo, I'm enjoying what
Top flight security guard.
Yeah.
Oh no, don't get it twisted. A lot of the responsibilities you had to patrol and take a look at every single city facility.
Mhm.
But more importantly, you had to be present at a lot of these rec centers. So what I enjoyed most was spending time at the rec centers and being able to interact with a lot of these kids.
Yep.
So my favorite places were like Emerson, where I got to sit next to Leonard Adams. He was the first Black deputy sheriff, here in Monroe County.
Hmm.
And he was like 80 years old, sitting out in a spray park on Emerson, right? And he was shutting it down, just sitting down. And he just, hey, boy, come here, boy, come here. Let me talk to you. So just sitting there watching this old man control this whole entire spray park. And mind you, this is in the dead summer, and you got barbecues, you got, a group here, a group there. This man controlled the whole area. They all respected him, and just sitting there watching him do that. The value, again, going back to it, the value of the grandfather. I'm looking at him. I'm like, nah, Mr. Adams, you sit down. No, I don't want you to get up. Don't worry. I don't want you. So it that competitive
kids are drawn
nature.
to him
like a magnet. Everybody. Oh, he was sending everybody, hey, go to the store, go.
And the louder and tougher he got, the more they enjoyed it.
They sure, yeah. Yeah, I'm ready. I enjoy it.
I think I have my pick for the comments of the evening.
Get it
from Chris. I'm gonna say Loper. I'm pretty sure. Right there. Do you guys need a bigger audience to get these messages out? Because we are doing. I say it every single time when we start. I said let's change the world. Right? Let's change the world. Before we even get on the show, I said let's change the world, because every single episode it adds to what we said or what we talked about before, and it's always different. The show is always different. Every single person that comes on brings a value to the show that we never had before. And the value that you brought today was astronomically high, Michael. I already had so much respect for you anyways. I've been on his show quite a few times, actually, a couple times. And I hope your steak dinner was fantastic.
Oh,
for your
man,
birthday.
you saved my birthday, man. So my wife comes back from the store shopping on my birthday week, and she goes, your ribeye steak was $14.99 a pound, and I'm not buying one. I'm not paying $14.99. I'm not paying $14.99 for one meal. So I bought a roast for your birthday. And so you bought a roast for my. I'm not getting my ribeye.
30th birthday.
So I love you too, honey. I love you too, honey. It's the 33rd anniversary of my 30th.
Oh,
and I happened to put it on Facebook. I said, thanks to Biden inflation, I'm not getting my birthday steak. But I had a guest coming on my show that day named Jose Pio, and he showed up at my door with a gift in his hand, and it was my ribeye steak.
Oh, wow.
Saved my birthday, man.
Bleeding and everything.
Did you get a sticker and say, I did that? Because I know 14 a pound. It was definitely a lot. You know?
So I got my steak and a roast. So I'm like, look at that, swimming in beef.
Swimming in red meat. It's good for your heart. So I hear.
Heck yeah.
Good for you. Jose's a nice guy.
My president's in Europe trying to come against methane now. So,
man.
I mean cow farts. Cow farts.
Yeah. That's methane.
Yeah.
That's what cow farts.
Well, you're not supposed to give those kind of stories, Mike, on my show, because I have a certain reputation to uphold. All right. I'm supposed to be the jerk.
Well, you know,
supposed to be the jerk.
You do a
don't
terrible
sell yourself
job
short.
You are too nice for that. This actually,
you call me short?
This makes up. You being here totally makes up for what happened last week when.
Oh my God!
Should I not bring it?
Should we not even bring it up?
Never mind. After this, oh my God!
I threw his book out today. I've been looking at it every single day. I'm like, you mother.
You should have threw it off the freaking
burned
bridge,
it, right? I should have burned it.
See how it flaps into the air and just
all those margin spaces.
And you know what that meant? The message was so negative, and this was such a everything was positive.
Yeah. If you watched last week's episode, this is the episode to catch back up and get the positivity that you need in the world.
This make up for what.
Why would anyone ever want to be told that you can't do anything?
Yes, that's just insane.
Hey, you're not strong enough to do anything about your situation. You might as well just be a victim.
Never apply to me, man. Like
take heed.
Les Brown, like
Michael's in our dark over here. He has no idea what we're talking about.
I call them Eeyore Christians. Remember the Eeyore?
Yeah.
Devil's got a hold of me today.
Yeah.
Brother,
oh my gosh.
So wait a minute. You want to slap them? You know. Listen. Are you going to heaven someday? Well, inform your face, right? Because nobody's paying attention to your witness right now.
Yeah.
Thank
there you go,
man.
Look at that.
We don't got time for it, yo.
And you know what? You're going to be one of the few people who I say we're gonna need more episodes out of you.
Yeah.
So we're gonna continue to work. We're gonna help you when we can. I believe the gentleman here. I'm surrounded by good men, and I believe our listeners are full of good men and women out there who would love to help. So this Friday from 5 to 8 at 1 Favor Street.
Yes, sir.
Come on out.
Hey,
some basketball.
We're about to do some t-shirts, right? How about we do a little portion of these t-shirts and can donate them. We got some stuff coming, man. Hey, I hope y'all paying attention.
Some stuff we're working on.
We got some stuff coming, and it's just only gonna get better and better with folks like Mike and again, shout out to Moses. You guys you don't even know who. If you don't know who Moses is,
Moses Robinson.
I mean, I've seen this man out, in the community,
job in the county.
Yes, right. And he's always there. Shout out to Moses and
he's just so positive. He's so good. Man. He's so good. Yeah. I do look up to that man and how positive he is with everything that he has to go through. I mean, he goes through
takes
darkest of the darkest in the
takes-
city.
Takes it all,
Mhm.
man.
He takes it.
And
Yep.
he's the bravest guy I know.
Mm-hmm.
Courage,
Can't be-
surrounded by courage.
Gosh.
That's amazing.
Full of
So make sure that the only way that this podcast works is by listeners like you sharing. If you love this podcast here, you should share it so that somebody else loves it and gets the light out of it that we got out of it today. I don't want to speak for you guys, but shoot, man, I feel brighter than ever.
Share it with a grandpa that you know
There we
is
go.
maybe disenfranchised with his son, because that's what we want to focus on for the next conference. We were going to do dads on duty kind of thing
Mhm.
later, but now that these great dads put it in the front burner, let's ramp
Right.
it up. There's awareness on it. Let's ramp it up.
There you
So
go.
send
Let's go.
it to a grandpa, send it to a dad that you know is disenfranchised with his son. And so you want to learn how to get reconnected with your son? Come to our conference in March.
Excellent. What was the website again?
YFCRochester.org.
YFCRochester.org.
And go to our Facebook page. We do more on our Facebook page than we do on our website. So if you want to follow us on, Rochester Youth for Christ on Facebook, we do more there than the website. It's just easier. And so that's when you follow us daily, but you give on YFCRochester.org.
There you go.
There's also a separate website we created for Fatherhood Initiative called fathersrock.org. And go watch some videos there and get inspired again. Fathersrock.org.
Is that
That's
ROC or ROCK?
ROC. And
Fathersrock.org.
that was built just to be a platform to talk about fatherlessness.
That's amazing. So I hope with the connections that we have, the networking that we have, that we are able to bring more light to your organization, because it's all about bringing this community back up. Because from what I see, we can only go up from where we are.
So excited, man.
I hate to be terrified for 2022, for what the elections had looked like. I don't put faith in any kind of man to do right or wrong. So
Right.
let's do what we can do to make this city a better place and to make the youth have a better future, man, because we want our kids to have a better place than where we are right now, for sure.
We have to reconnect them with spirituality, man. We have to reconnect them.
There's no substitute for God.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. There's just not. You have to have a faith element in your life, or you're only solving 2/3 of the problem.
Well, we need to stop. Like, people need to stop saying they hate this city, because people don't know the rich
you're prophesying
culture that we have.
Yeah, you're
it's-
putting it out into the universe there.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Mhm.
This city has been a force in that element, in that fight of spirituality, being
Right.
free and working together. Like, that's the foundation of this country too. Like,
The
Rochester's no
last
slouch.
big revival was the Finney revival in the 1830s. It was the biggest revival on record.
yeah, well,
I don't know anything about that, so we're gonna have to bring that up in the next one.
That's,
Right.
hey, listen, we
That's
got
the
a
next
lot.
I got a
episode?
guy for you that just finishing up a documentary on it. You got to watch his
Oh
film.
yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Garrett went. He's a pastor of the church. His church is the 100-year-old sanctuary of Bethel Christian Fellowship on the corner of East Ave and Union. His church now Bethel meets in the big new auditorium.
Yep.
That's where I go. Pastor Dave and Ron Domina. Garrett is pastor of the church that meets in the 100-year-old sanctuary that Finney preached in back in the day. So he created
History
He's
in
been
this city.
3 years doing this documentary. It's going to be off the hook. This documentary. He wants to debut it. One of the places is that Youth for Christ. We're going to debut.
You heard it here first.
in the spring.
You heard it here first.
in the spring.
Hey, let's get involved. Everybody out there that
Mike,
watch this,
you're gonna get
share
tired
it.
of hearing from me. Like, yo, Mike, let me ask you something.
Right.
Bring
Because
it,
I love history
bring it,
too.
man.
I love history as well. And just from the Frederick Douglass era and beyond, that's my era, as far as enjoying what this city was all about. But there's so much more, and I think people need to hear who you are and what you know and what you do, and I'm all for it, man.
My
I'm
other
with
favorite
it.
quote of Frederick Douglass is that the surest way out of poverty is an education. But we don't have that going on in Rochester.
Sure.
Oh, could you let folks know that Frederick Douglass actually loved this country? Like,
Yeah,
he
man.
loved the
Yeah,
country.
he was a patriot.
Yeah.
He was a patriot right to the end.
Mhm.
He was having communications with Abe back and forth. They didn't agree on everything, but
Abe, you guys are
both-
cool like that?
But they were cool like that. They were both fighting for the same thing. And they had different ways of going about it. And I don't know all the details, but Fred and Abe were tight.
Fred and Abe.
Woo.
He was tight with Susan.
We got
Lee.
Ann.
You already
Ann-
got money.
Ann already
sir.
got money
There you go,
coming in.
Ann. Thank you
Chris
very
already
much.
putting
We
out
about
his
to-
account. That's what I'm talking about,
It's
guys.
about to go down.
That's what I'm talking
We
about.
to have a great
Kevin,
time.
go to the
Look at you
website and
guys.
give.
Look at
Go to the
Yes.
website right now and give. Who else is on there? We're gonna call out. To go on there. Dan
Listen,
Rice, I love you, man. West Coast, let's show up. Give him some money. Jennifer, I know you're already on it as well.
push the podcast.
with your husband.
share,
Congratulations
guys.
for
We got
Bryce.
a lot of work to do.
Bryce put his himself out there and ran for county legislator, man. You did a fantastic job. Fantastic
Bryce
job.
did a great job,
Yep.
man. That's just stay tuned with him, right?
Right. Yeah.
Stay tuned
Yep.
with him.
Man, you did a great job. Don't let the numbers freaking man.
Pat Riley,
First
too.
time
Pat
running.
Riley,
Pat
too.
Riley. We
Just
were
getting
supposed
started, right?
man, I was trying to get Pat Riley on before the election. Shout out to, we had Rory on.
Rory was on. He got that mojo.
Rory got the win by about the same amount of views that he had on our show. So we're gonna go ahead and take that. We're gonna take that win. We're gonna take that win.
He beat some people. When you bring the whack ass governor in town,
Yeah.
That was one of the articles.
No one
That's one of the
noticed.
articles.
No one, and you're
Yeah.
not gonna fool people in Ronnie Quaid though. It was the people on the west side. That's what it was. It wasn't the east side. No, I'm just messing with it. That was just
You
another.
definitely wasn't
You gotta
the
get on the East Veronica thing. Oh my God. Well, I know two men that I would personally love to see get involved with your organization, Kanye West and John Leguizamo. So if they ever come around,
Yeah.
let them know I'm trying to get a hold of them. Maybe this might, entice them into returning my phone call.
If they bring steak, they get extra treatment.
Hey, maybe not John Leguizamo, but Kanye would bring steak.
Yeah, you bring a cow.
Yeah, for real. Well, awesome. Michael, thank you so much again.
Thanks,
Everyone
guys.
out there, share this
So
because we need to get people out there. Donate. Come out on Friday evening, 5 to 8 p.m., 1 Favor Street. And follow them on Facebook. And awesome.
5 p.m.
5 p.m.
5 to 8.
5 to 8. And awesome. Play that funky music.
Ah.